Dark Knight, the coolest character in Final Fantasy IV, the best job in Final Fantasy XIV, the defender of Gotham, and the ultimate anti-hero. In this video today, we'll be building out my Dark Knight build for Baldur's Gate 3. This is similar to the Death Knight build I made a while back, but the difference here is adjusting this to the changes made with Honor Mode. Mainly that Warlock doesn't get an extra third attack from their Pact of the Blade in this new mode. Even though I've geared this more towards the new difficulty, this is 100% viable and balanced or tactician just fine, so please don't feel locked into Honor Mode. As always, my guides should act as inspiration rather than creed. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by upfronting the knowledge in my videos so you can decide if it's the right one for you. So with that being said, we will have a wild road ahead of us for setting this character up. We'll start with 1 level into Cleric and go War Domain. Then 5 levels into Vengeance Paladin. This will give us plenty of attacks. After that, we'll take 3 levels into Warlock and immediately respec the character, shifting our ability points or stats away from strength and into charisma. You'll finish off with 1 more level into Cleric and 2 more levels into Paladin for some messy but very fun character that has plenty of strong Paladin smites, spell slots, charisma-based weapon scaling, and a ton of attacks to dish out as you see fit. But that's really the entire breakdown of this character, so if that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to just simply shut the video down and get back to enjoying BG3. Before you head out, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Each one of those things does help me out in a huge way. I've gone from like 89% to 80% unsubscribed viewership because of your help, but that's a number I'd still like to get lower, and every little bit helps. If you need help with any other subject in Baldur's Gate 3, check out my playlist linked below and at the end of the video. But let's get started here on the best Death Knight build in Baldur's Gate 3. Loading into the game, let's go through some character creation. Now, as always, this is a single-player narrative game, so have fun with your race options. Go with whatever thing you want. But since we are in Honor Mode, we're going to go with a little bit more of a min-maxy approach, just because that's Honor Mode and there's a lot more at stake, right? So, starting off with the 3 big races I'm going to... well, 4 big races. 4 little races I'm going to recommend is Halfling is one of them, just because Lucky is very good, right? When you roll a 1 for an attack roll, ability check or saving throw, you can re-roll the die, and you must take the new roll. It's just so good in Honor Mode to have free re-rolls, and it's just built into the character, and it's really fun to play a Halfling with a great weapon. This looks cute. Then you've got Dwarf. And the Gold Dwarf is where we would stick with because they get 1 more hit point per level. It's just nice to have a really crunchy hit point pool to take advantage of. Also, you get Dwarven Resilience, so you get that advantage on saving throws against poison, which is probably one of the more prevalent damage types in the game. Half-Orc is going to be really good here because we're going to get savage attacks. When you land a critical hit with a melee weapon attack, you deal an extra dice of weapon damage, which is absolutely great. And also, since we are on Honor Mode and total party kills do really end your entire playthrough, Relentless Endurance is going to be very good here. If you reach 0 hit points, you regain 1 hit point instead of becoming downed. Very solid option across the board. Now, the other big standout one I'm going to go with is the Gith. Gith have really cool special narrative options going through the game. So if you've not ever played a Gith in this game, it's definitely recommended. And on top of it, you get some pretty cool cantrips. You get an enhanced leap. You get a really cool mage hand, and you get tons of weapons and armor that are exclusive to the Gith. Lastly, you get Astral Knowledge. Gain proficiency in all skills of a chosen ability. Meaning, of course, remember, if I choose charisma, then I am proficient in every single charisma skill. So deception, performance, persuasion, and intimidation. Or if I choose wisdom, then it's insight and medicine and all those ones that are wisdom related. So it's nice just to have this ability to turn it on when you need to in Honor Mode, where there are a lot of really critical rolls that you cannot re-roll or reload, right? There's no save scumming here. Well, there technically is, but those are the big standout options I'd go with. You can go with anything else outside of that if you so wish. Dragonborn for the resistances and the damage, Tieflings for all their cantrip and bound spells, humans for their increased carry capacity, whatever you want. Now, the first class we're going to start with here is the Cleric, which is great because this is going to give us some fun cantrips out the gate. The 3 cantrips I recommend are going to be Blade Ward to give us resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing, so we'll take half damage, and guidance, which is going to be useful the entirety of your playthrough. It is so good. You won't have to rely on the guidance necklace, which is also a really good source of guidance. But also thaumaturgy, which is going to be fun here because you gain advantage on intimidation and performance checks, so you can use this when you're going through any kind of conversation bit where you might need it. Our subclass domain is, or our subclass is going to be the War Domain. And this is going to be cool just to get us Shield of Faith and Divine Favor. Two great options, but the big thing here is War Priest. When you make an unarmed or weapon attack, you can spend a War Priest charge to make an additional attack as a bonus action. You're going to get 3 of these War Priest charges out the gate. We're never going to have any more than that in this build, but the nice thing is this basically turns on a pseudo extra attack for us right here at turn 1. And the cool thing too is that, I mean, not the cool thing, but this will also make it so that you have to do a long rest to get these back. But as a War Domain Cleric, we also get martial weapons. So we'll have access to pretty much every single weapon in the game as far as our proficiency goes. So that is really nice because we're going to use the Everburn Greatsword right out the gate. That's a big focus for us, right? Deity, go with whatever one you want to go with. If you're playing a Gith, you can actually go with Vlaakith, which is pretty cool. So do with whatever you want to go with. Background, as always, please choose a background that makes sense for you and your character, especially in honor mode, because if you are going with background choices for your dialogue, you want to make sure you get as many inspiration points as possible. Those inspiration points will allow you to do rerolls. That's kind of crucial here, right? So again, in honor mode, maybe be a little bit more min-maxy with this. I'm going to go Guild Artisan because I like the skill proficiencies of Persuasion and Insight. It's always one of my go-to picks. And then as we jump into skills as well, choose what makes sense for the character. I'd probably not choose Medicine, Religion, History, and then Persuasion and Insight innately through Guild Artisan. That's a fine enough spread for what we're going to be dealing with. Let's now go into a conversation about your ability points. Well, actually, before we do that, let's talk about your single prepared spell you'll get. Actually, you'll get a little bit more because we're going to swap some stuff up. But I would start with Command just as we get into the ship, because remember, you're a cleric, so you can swap these spells out at any point, but I would start with Command so that you have more casts of it when you're on the Nautiloid ship between you and Shadowheart, because you want to make sure you get the Everburn Greatsword. I've said it before, but it's going to be the biggest weapon and the strongest weapon you're going to use early in the game. It's going to last you all the way through Act 1 until you get something better. Now let's talk about those ability points. So we're going to respec this character after we get Warlock to level 3, but to start off, we're going to put points here into Strength. We want to get Strength to 16 because that's how we're going to do the majority of our damage. We're going to put our Wisdom just to 10. That's fine there at 10. And then our Charisma, we want to get to 16 as well, because that's where a lot of our abilities scale off of. Our Dexterity, we can keep at 10 because we're going to be using heavy armor, so we don't necessarily need anything from it. And then our Constitution, we're going to jack all the way up to 14 for health and helping out with any of our concentration rolls. You can bring your Dexterity down to 8, but I just don't ever recommend that. I don't want a -1 to anything if I can take it, right? So unless it's intelligence, but a -1 to my anything that affects your initiative in your armor class. I just don't want any of that to deal any kind of -1 to a fireball save or anything like that in this game. I'd just rather have it at an even 10. And that way we're set to go. We will respec this character, like I said, and just to show you what that looks like in case you don't want to jump through the rest of this video, we would drop this all the way to 8, and we'd bring our Charisma actually up to 17, and we would take this guy up to 16 and put 14 points into Dexterity. Even though we're using heavy armor with this character, we would have that 14 Dex because it gives us a +2 to our initiative. This 16 Constitution helps with our saving throws against concentration, and it increases our health pool. 10 Wisdom, we don't really care because we're only putting 2 levels into Cleric. And then 17 Charisma is going to help out with all of our Warlock and all of our Paladin capabilities, and we'll use things to increase our Charisma throughout the game. But that's how I would ultimately end our stats once we respec. So now you've got both set of stats. You've got your pre-stats, and then you've got your post-respec stats, so that you can basically shut the video down again if you want to, if this is as far you wanted to go. Let's jump into the progression for this character, taking a look at how we're going to level up. So first thing we're going to do is jump into Paladin right at level 2 and choose the Oath of Vengeance. This is going to give us Inquisitor's Might, but it's also going to give us our 2 vows at level 3 of Paladin. We're going to get a charisma-based hold person. There's a lot of really great things here. Also keep in mind, this is a Paladin, so it has an oath, and that Oath of Vengeance, you have to kind of adhere to those tenets. You can build this as an Oathbreaker Paladin if you want, but I would recommend not going Oathbreaker until after we respec from Warlock, because if you Oathbreak, you cannot respec away from the character until you pay the gold to repay your oath or whatever the hell it is. So I would wait to do it after, because the big portion of going Oathbreaker anyway is level 7 for Aura of Hate. So I would wait until I'm at the latter portions of the game. But we'll simply just take this, we'll bring it up now to level 2, Paladin at level 3, and our fighting style. So I'm going to go great weapon fighting for this build, but you could definitely go with dueling and go with a sword and a shield, or protection and go with a sword and shield, or defense and go with a sword and shield. Hell, if you don't want to decide, you could just choose defense and just have a flat increase to your armor class while you're wearing armor. But I want to go with a lot of two-handed weapon damage, so I'm going with great weapon fighting here. And for our spells, we already have a lot of these from our cleric, but you can go with some fun stuff, like all of the smites is what I'd probably recommend here. Heroism can be a fun one. Just keep in mind, though, that you do have a lot of overlapping concentration abilities. So you don't want to choose too many concentration abilities when you're coming into this. Shield of Faith is cool. Divine Favor is cool. Again, these things, though, are all concentration. Compelled Duel is kind of nifty, and command we've already talked about here. So just kind of go with what makes sense for the character, what your other party looks like, especially too. That's going to be a big thing. Hey, I already have a light cleric in my party, so I don't really need to worry about Bless here or Cure Wounds or any of the more cleric focused abilities, because I already have a dedicated one in Shadowheart or someone else. So choose the ones that make sense for the character. We're not really looking for a whole ton of utility here, but it is nice to be able to turn on psychic or thunder damage when I need to. And in the early portions of the game, right, when you're at level 3, thunder damage is going to be really good. And what I like about Thunderous Smite especially is that it is not a concentration ability versus the other two, which are concentration abilities. So these will do persistent damage or fear things, but they require concentration. This is just going to knock them backwards 10 feet and maybe even knock them prone, which is really good because it sets you up for more damage in the future. And keep in mind too, there's a lot of items that will add reverberation. Reverberation is the special effect for thunder, and it will knock things prone after 5 stacks or do thunder damage. There's a lot of really cool thunder stuff you can do in the first act of the game that makes Thunderous Smite very good. So we'll go ahead and take that, and we'll progress forward here into level 3 Paladin. We'll get the biggest portion of level 3 Paladin is now we get Vow of Enmity. Gain advantage on attack rolls against an enemy. You are going to cast this on yourself because it will give you advantage on everything you attack for 10 turns. That's the big thing with Vow of Enmity. Abjure Enemy is really cool too, because you frighten them and they'll have disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls, can't move. This is a nice one, but we'll be focusing on this more than likely. We also are going to get access to Bane for free and Hunter's Mark for free. Concentration abilities, but Hunter's Mark is cool because it's just a free 1d6 damage whenever you hit something, which is... it's piercing damage versus, say, Hex, which is necrotic damage, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And again, choose spells that make sense for you. And we're going to get up here to level 4 Paladin. And we will be character level 5 at this point, right? With 4 levels into Paladin and 1 level into Cleric. Everyone else is going to get extra attack, but that's okay. You don't need to worry about that because we're getting a lot of extra attack from our bonus action in... your War Priest charges from Cleric. And when we go into our feat discussion, which is just a little bit here, we're going to get more attacks from the bonus action of Great Weapon Mastery. Let's now talk about some feats. So I've retooled this build like a million times to try to really make this work out in the way that I want to get more feats. But unfortunately, we only get 1 feat on this character. And it's going to come down to you and how you want to play. Great Weapon Master is what I recommend because that's what we're sticking with. The big thing here is, yes, you do more damage with Great Weapon Master. That's the coolest thing about it, I guess. But for this build, kind of to lean into the direction of getting us even more attacks, Great Weapon Master has this ability. When you land a critical hit or kill a target with a melee weapon attack, you can make another melee weapon attack as a bonus action. Why that's important here is we only get 3 charges of War Priest. So if we crit or if we kill someone with melee weapon, we should use this bonus action attack rather than our War Priest charge. Because that War Priest charge, you only get 3 and every long rest. So this is a way to kind of spice in a bonus action attack without having to take from our currency, right? This is if you want to go with Great Weapon Master. You can go with Polearm Master, which is cool because you get the Polearm Master bonus attack, but you are relegated to only using glaives, halberds, quarterstaves, and spears. The cool thing with Great Weapon Master is all those previous 4 that we just talked about are great weapons. So you'll still get that bonus action. This just guarantees you a bonus action no matter what. And the important thing off of both of those bonus actions, they can trigger smite. So you can use this bonus action to do a whole nother bonus action of smite. So if you want to use polearms, go with this instead. You also make an opportunity attack when targets come within range, which will really augment well with our level 7 paladin ability, Righteous Avenger, which gives you some movement when opportunity attacks are made. Those are the 2 weapon item or weapon-based feats I would go with. If you want to stick with the shield and be more defensive, go with something like heavily armored here. Ooh, no, go with heavy armor master. Heavy armor master here, or go with where is it? Shield master. You can choose like a savage attacker, but again, I'd rather I want to add more damage instances into this build, because damage instances with a paladin allows me to use smite. This just makes my damage when I do it more, right? When you're making melee weapon attacks, you roll your damage dice twice and use the highest result, which is great, right? Your hits are harder. I just want to have chances to use or get more smites on the table. But that's why we've gone with those other 2. Ability improvement, again, you can go with 2, but I'm steering clear of it and sticking with my Great Weapon Master. On to our next level. So with this, we have Paladin level 5, but we are at character level 6. The biggest boon is extra attack. So now our primary attack will do 2 rounds of combat, right? Well, not 2 rounds of combat. We'll do an attack twice because of extra attack. And then our bonus action will either be our Great Weapon Master action, or it will be our War Priest charge. So we have, in a given round, hopefully 3 times we can trigger smite, which is really, really huge. It kind of pushes in that pseudo third attack that we would have gotten from a Blade Pact level 5 Warlock, which you can still do in non-honor mode. But we get more spells, so let's get some spells. I like Magic Weapon a lot. It is a concentration ability, but if I don't have a really good concentration ability used, this is nice just to give me a +1 to my attack and damage rolls. So I do more damage and I'm more likely to hit. And I can turn on Branding Smite if I want to add some radiant damage in. What I don't like about all of the smite abilities, for all these smite abilities, is there are action and bonus action economy. So they really sink a lot of your turn into a single gambit. And if you don't have a way to re-roll them, they can be very dangerous. So just kind of keep those things in mind. Aid is a really good ability because you can cast it and it just gives you permanent hit points until you long rest. You'd probably want to cast this on a higher level from a cleric. You want to conserve your spell slots as much as you can for smites, but I like the actual smites, not these smites. But just to kind of point these things out as really fun abilities. Protection from poison, again, is another really good one that you can use until long rest, but I would not want to waste that spell slot if I could control it, right? I'd probably want to use this from a camp follower or something of the sort. I'll just pop spells into this. And we will accept this. And now it's time to pivot. We have done 5 levels into Paladin. We are now going to switch into Warlock. And we are going to focus on the Great Old One. The Great Old One especially because of this, mortal reminder. When you land a critical hit against a creature, that creature and any nearby enemies must succeed a wisdom saving throw or become frightened. And there's lots of items and stuff like that that can lean into making people reroll frightened, but you already have tons of sources of frightened as a Vengeance Paladin. This just leans into it. And the nice thing is, this is when you land a critical hit. So you can critical hit, smite, and Mortal Reminder are going to trigger. And Mortal Reminder is going to trigger every time you crit. So the nice thing about this is you're not using some sort of currency to do it, right? And that's why I really like it. Cantrips wise, go with Eldritch Blast. You are not going to be an Eldritch Blaster, but it's nice to have the functionality to do range damage when you can, and actually have that range damage be very punchy because we're going to be charisma focused. And outside of that, you can go, we already have Blade Ward through our Cleric, so you could go with Bone Chill if you want. You can go with pretty much anything else in this. So we're on honor mode, so just be careful with friends. You can't really just cast this on someone and have it not go aggro most of the time, so just kind of know how you're doing it. They'll go aggro at the end of the 10 turns. So if you're trying to get a roll to go through on someone to maybe dismiss a combat, cast this and like teleport out of range or whatever it is. But Poison Spray can be fun. Minor Illusion can be really cool. I don't like True Strike because it's a concentration and an action in this resource cost. So just be careful with that. I'll put Friends there because why not? And spell-wise, we are not going to get access to a ton of Warlock spell slots. Remember, Warlock spell slots replenish on a short rest, which is really cool for us, right? But Hex is going to be a nice one because this is going to give us a source of necrotic damage whenever we want to and force people to have disadvantage on a specific ability of my choosing, right? But outside of that, Armor of Agathis is nice just to give me some temp hit points and some reactive cold damage here. And Arms of Hadar is another good one just to explode out for me and do necrotic damage since I am going to be in melee, right? So, and if they save too, targets still take half damage but are able to use reactions. So this is still a pretty fun one that you can use. We'll stick with that for now. Yeah, we'll stick with that for now, and we will accept. And into level 2, we get another spell. You can use Hellish Rebuke. My opinion, though, is I'd rather not use a spell slot on a reactive thing to do a damage that is heavily resisted in this game. So I would steer clear of it. Tasha's Hideous Laughter is also really good because it can knock things prone and it can lock them down. But it's up to you if you want to really kind of lean into that. I'll put it in here. And if you want, you can replace the spell at this point. But Eldritch Invocations, Devil's Sight is the primary one. It's one of the big reasons we're choosing Warlock. So now we can see in both magical and non-magical darkness to a distance of 80 feet. So we'll never be blinded by darkness, as it were. And we're going to go with Agonizing Blast because we are going to have Eldritch Blast be a part of the range package of this character. And we want it to have its charisma bonus being added in. We'll accept this for our last level here into Warlock, and we will choose our Pact boon, and it's going to be Blade. And this, of course, the big thing here is you bind your main hand weapon, its damage becomes magical, you cannot drop or throw it, and you become proficient with it if you weren't already, which is cool. But you could have okay, well, this. It uses the wielder's spellcasting ability modifier and its damage is magical. So what that means is now we are going to respec this character. That 16 strength is going to swap into Constitution, Dexterity, and Charisma, and we will have 8 strength. So we are no longer going to focus on that for our character. And for our spells, we now jump into level 2 spells. What I want you to know, though, is the 2 big things in this category we already get from our Vengeance Paladin. So Hold Person, we're already going to have for our Vengeance Paladin. We don't need that here. And Misty Step, again, already from the Paladin. Don't need it here. But we do get stuff like Enthrall, reduce a creature's peripheral vision and make it look at you. So you can actually kind of like, quote unquote, taunt something to have it attack you if you so wish. You could use Mirror Image here to increase your armor class by 3 as kind of a defensive capability. Darkness, since you can already see in it, doesn't matter anymore, right? You can use this and you can actually have, you can cast this and run through and actually do the damage. Just keep in mind, people outside that darkness cannot shoot into it if they're your friends. So kind of use this if you really kind of see yourself jumping into that. And we can replace one of our spells, like maybe Tasha's here, with another level 2 that we really like. You know what? I want to give them some ranged thunder damage. Or we're going to lean now heavy into Crown of Madness and make it so that people get really ass wild, whatever it is. So that's our setup now. But we're going to take this whole entire character and respec them at Withers. So we're going to accept this. We're going to exit out. And we're going to go over here to Withers. And we're going to say, can you help me change my class? And this stuff will all remain the same for how we've chose it in the beginning. So don't worry about that. But we're just going to come here and nuke our strength and put that +2 here into Constitution. We're going to actually put that +2 here into Charisma and the +1 into Constitution. Bring our Constitution to 16 and our Dex to 14. If you're like me and you don't like having to manage a character's carry capacity and you don't want to use elixirs, because you can definitely use elixirs on this character to get through this, but you could do this and be just fine. You know, like, yeah, you got maybe an uneven point here in strength, but this helps out with your carry capacity if you don't want to deal with it. I mean, you could even do this if you really wanted to, but having our dexterity at 14 gives us more initiative, and an honor mode going as fast as you can is always good, right? So this is what we're going to lock in with the character. We're going to stop right now. I'm going to jump ahead, re-level up the way we just leveled up, and bring us back up to where we were. Okay, so we're back to our previous set of levels, 1 Cleric, 5 Paladin, 3 Warlock. So we're going to accept, and we're going to jump forward now into another level, and we're going to finish off Cleric instead. And why we're going 2 levels into Cleric at this point in the game, we're at level 10 now, right? So we should be just ending Act 2, just coming into Act 3. We've got some very scary targets to hit, so we now will have Guided Strike. You gain a +10 bonus to your attack roll. You only have, I think, 1 charge of Channel Divinity. I can't remember off the top of my head. We'll take a look at it in a little sec. Oh, no, we just got a second one. Oh, no, this just one. We just have one. And the nice thing here is that it will replenish on a short rest, but the big thing is that it's just a +10 bonus to our attack roll, so we're more likely to hit targets that are very scary. So we can keep our Great Weapon Mastery that does a little ability that does increase damage, right? This all in. So attack rolls take a -5 penalty, but their damage increases by 10. Well, we're going to offset that -5 and actually give it a +5 with Guided Strike to hopefully do that 10 extra damage. So it's a nice way to really kind of bolster the character's extra many attacks that it has, and it's a great way to just kind of spice in a little damage there. You can take, again, whatever spells make sense for you. I mean, Inflict Wounds is pretty fun, right? Very rarely will anyone recommend that, but I'm doing it right now since we're going to be in melee all the time anyway. And we will accept this. And we're going to push back into Paladin and finish off our 2 levels here. What's nice is that we will get the benefit of Aura of Protection. You and nearby allies gain a +0 bonus to saving throws. That's going to be based off of your Charisma modifier. So right now that would be +3 to our saving throws. And also, that's all good. We're going to play 1 more level. And we finish off our Paladin here at +7, which gives us Relentless Avenger. If you hit an enemy with an opportunity attack, your movement speed increases by 15 feet on your next turn. And we have a lot of spells here to go through. So that is the character, all broken up. Let's jump into our next section to kind of take a look at what all of our abilities are like in the actual game. So here's everything put together. Let's take a look. We have so many abilities. So right at the very bottom here, I've put all of our many smites that we can do, right? Our Wrathful, our Magic. Well, that's not a smite. I'm going to swap that around. Our Branding, our Steering, our Thunderous Smites. We'll probably not ever use them once you get past a certain point in the game anyway. But it's nice to kind of have them there if you want them. And Magic Weapons there. Also, we have Bane if we ever need to want to use it. Hex is going to be great, like I said, because it's just free necrotic damage. It is like 25, 30%, 35%, whatever it is of the enemies in the game are resistant to necrotic, so just keep that in mind. But the disadvantage on an ability roll is always really cool. Just also know it's concentration. It will overwrite something. Even though it's a bonus action, which is awesome, if I used Hunter's Mark and then the next turn I try to use Hex, Hex will then shut off Hunter's Mark. So just remember that. Or if I have Searing Smite, this will shut off one or the other. So just know. You know this because you're jumping into honor mode anyway, but nonetheless. For the top row here, we have all these really cool buffs you can tap into. We'll pretty much be focusing on Blade Ward, if anything. We have guidance when we'll need it in conversations. Bless, I'd probably pull in through... it's not even prepared anyway, so what's it even doing there? Bless, I'd probably pull in from an actual... It's not even prepared anyway. What's it doing there? We have Thaumaturgy, which gets advantage on intimidation and performance checks. I don't think it's prepared. It is. Cool. I put Mirror Image on the character because I think it's a really cool way to add a lot of AC, a lot of defensive characteristics if you're not using the Cloak of Displacement. Heroism if you want, whatever it is. You've plenty of buffs. Now this line though is important because these are all of our kind of like, this line is important because it's all of our kind of like class abilities we get from all the many things that we are. So we've got all of our smites that were active here, right? We can go with an 18 to 45 damage, or then juice this bad boy up to a level 3 smite for 20 to 61 damage. Remember though, with smites, you want to click this little button over here on the right. I'm not sure what it is on console, but basically bring up your spell book on console and click the reactions tab. And make sure you have all of your smites turned on to ask you. If they're not checked here, the game will just automatically apply the smite. Why I like to have all the level of smites turned on is that in a moment I can decide for myself what level I want to actually go through. Hey, you know what? It's just a piece of crap chaff. I'll use a level 1 spell slot here, right? Or you know what? It's a level 2 kind of harder target. I'll use a level 2 spell slot because I have level 2 spell slots that replenish on a short rest. I'll go with that instead. Or hey, this is the big Mamba Jamba, level 3 time. So make sure these are all turned on for yourself. We have Inquisitor's Might, which we can use early in the game until we get the vows. or Vow of Enmity, or Abjure Enemy, which we both talked about. We would cast this, though, on ourselves, just like that. We have a heal with Lay on Hands, which is really cool. Remember, Lay on Hands, though, can be a cure, a greater heal, or a lesser heal. Imbue your hands with Divine Power to heal a target. I think this uses 2, right? Yeah, 2 charges for the greater heal. We also have our Aura of Protection, so a +3 save, which is nice. Just remember that when you cast this, like this, it's always on, but everything that comes in and out of 10 feet is what's going to get that benefit. So if they're not within 10 feet, they won't get that benefit. Turn Undead, which we can use, probably never, but it's there. Divine Sense, gain advantage on attack rolls against Celestials, Fiends, and Undead as a bonus action, and it replenishes on short rest. Just don't sleep on this ability. In Act 2, it's going to be very helpful for you because you'll deal with a lot of the latter two. So just get a free advantage on attack rolls rather than wasting your Channel Oath charge, right? You're like, hey, I'm fighting an undead target. It's a hard to kill target. Use this rather than that unless you're right up against them, right? Like you can kind of use these two to get different types of advantage. This only lasts for 2 turns though, so keep that in mind. And we also have our damage abilities like Eldritch Blast or Inflict Wounds or Bone Chill or Arms of Hadar, which we could spice up to a level 3 if we really, really wanted to. You know, we wouldn't, but it's there. Hold Person, which is going to be nice because remember, Hold Person, you can cast this and then go to town with your bonus action from your War Priest charge and do a critical hit on it. It's a really great ability because it's coming off of our charisma because we got it as a paladin or as a warlock, wouldn't matter, but still it's coming off of our charisma and some mobility with Misty Step. Keep in mind though, you know, your Channel Divinity, so this Guided Strike that replenishes on a short rest. Guided Strike is our ability to add +10 to our attack rolls. Our Channel Oath is on a short rest as well. So now we can get that Vow of Enmity back on a short rest. And our Lay on Hands is on a long rest, as well as our War Priest charge. That War Priest charge is going to kick in whenever we do an extra attack as a bonus action. So just kind of keep in mind those are all of our currencies. And we go up to level 3 spell slots with short rest replenishable level 2 spell slots. Last thing though, we do want to make sure we always bind our Pact weapon because that's what turns its damage scaling. So right now this says 6 to 19 damage because we've swapped off of strength, right? Now it does 10 to 23. So you can immediately see the effect that it has on any weapon just by simply binding it with a Pact weapon. And of course, it can't be disarmed. Even better. Great, 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 great. Let's now talk about some gear. So let's focus on some of the items I don't have on my character first before we go on the ones that I do have. So the Everburn Blade is of course going to be the big first focus that you get. You get this on the Nautiloid ship. You have to use command drop from yourself and Shadowheart on that Cambion commander to get it. It's absolutely crucial you do get this weapon. That's why you've got both of you using command to try and really ensure that this does happen and you do get it. You're going to use it throughout the majority of the first act anyway, and it just adds such a good amount of punching power to this character. I strongly recommend it. Now, another one that you're going to be able to get here in Act 1 is the Luminous Armor. So when the wearer deals radiant damage, they cause a radiant shockwave. Those radiant shockwaves add radiant orbs, and those radiant orbs are a -1 to attack roll per orb added. So we can do radiant damage through a bunch of resources, right? We have our Inquisitor's Might, which allows us to do radiant damage. We have Crusader's Mantle, whatever the hell the one that allows us to do radiant damage 1 to 4 every time we hit as a level 1 ability. So we have tons of sources of radiant damage, and our Smite is a radiant damage ability. So this is a shockwave every time we do a smite. It's stupid strong, and it couples very well with this, the Holy Lance Helm. Creatures who miss their attack rolls against the wearer must make a dexterity saving throw or take 1 to 4 radiant damage. Wabam! So that's another free source of radiant damage every time they miss an attack on us. They work so well together. Now, outside of those two weapons too, or those two items, you can get the Diadem of Arcane Synergy. When you inflict a condition, your smite will do that, gains Arcane Synergy for 2 rounds. This is going to add your spellcasting ability to your melee damage. So this would add our charisma to our damage in conjunction with our strength, adding it in. This is an Act 1 item, so you would probably choose between the Diadem of Arcane Synergy or the Holy Lance Helm, whichever one you really want to go with, and then kind of swap things off as you progress through the game. And the last one I want to focus on here is the Armor of Persistence. I'm just a poor bitch in this playthrough. I haven't bought it, but the Armor of Persistence here reduces all incoming damage by 2. You get this in Act 3. You buy it from Damon. So if you kill the goblin, if you don't kill the goblins and you side with the goblins in Act 1, you can't get this armor because they'll kill Damon. But you also get Legendary Persistence. You gain resistance in Blade Ward. It's just there. It's always on. It's amazing. It's a really, really, really good, probably the best purchasable heavy armor in the game. It's just super expensive on honor mode. So make sure if you go to talk to Damon to buy this, you do it with the character with the highest amount of persuasion, especially or particularly one that has persuasion expertise. This will knock down the cost of this significantly. Let's go now into the items that I do have. And we'll start off with our weapons. Now, there are a lot of weapons you're going to come across in this game, and the Blood of Lathander is a really good one, but it's not a two-handed weapon. Like, so if you see a weapon that I don't talk about that you really like, just use it. Like I've said before, these guides are meant to inspire you, not to act as creed. Don't mind my messy damn inventory. In fact, you don't look at the inventory. Like when someone comes into your car and just covered in McDonald's wrappers, like, yeah, no, I eat healthy. So one of the first ones and I've kind of tried to organize this from things you'll find in Act 1 down into Act 2 and then 3. So Falar Luve you'll find in the Underdark, and it's a really good weapon. It is a finesse weapon, but that only means it'll scale with dexterity if it's higher than strength. So in this case, it's not. And it will give us access to the Melody, which will either bless or do kind of like a pseudo Bane, and on top of it, give us 1 to 4 lightning damage on target. Remember I was saying there's a lot of early sources of thunder damage? Well, here's an example of one. And it replenishes every short rest too, so it's even better. Now in Act 2, you can get the Halberd of Vigilance, which is just so damn good because it adds free force damage in there. You get a bonus to initiative rolls and advantage on perception ability checks. And when you make an attack roll as a reaction, you make it with advantage. So this is something that really works well with the Polearm Master. In fact, if you go Polearm Master, this is the weapon you get. You stop getting every other weapon because you have advantage on attack rolls you make that as a reaction. Opportunity attacks are those rolls. You make opportunity attacks anytime someone comes into your like field of engagement, right? And you as a Vengeance Paladin move 15 feet your next turn if you've made an opportunity attack. So this is the best one if you're going that route. Some other really cool ones though are like Corpse Grinder you'll get at the very beginning of Act 3. It does free thunder damage, and it has this cool ability to do a ton more damage. Slam your weapon into the ground, thunderously impacting nearby foes and possibly pushing them away. It's just a really cool two-handed hammer. There's not many of those in this game. Another really cool one is the Blackguard or Blackguard's sword. On a hit infused with one of your smites, you got tons of them, the target must succeed a Constitution saving throw or become dazed, which is kind of like a free effect you get from Inquisitor's Might. Remember that does that daze effect to enemies? Well, this just kind of adds it in as just having this weapon equipped. And it's a long sword, so you'd use it in 2 hands. Absolutely love it. Then you have the Baldur Giant Slayer, which is probably the quote-unquote best in slot, right? On a hit, double the damage from your strength modifier. This weapon grants you advantage on attack rolls against large, huge, or gargantuan creatures. If you went this route, though, and this is why I was going to say it's maybe best in slot. If you go this route, you have to quaff a potion of Cloud Giant Strength, which is just fine. Do I have one on my character? I know I've got one. You could use Hill Giant too, it doesn't matter. But the point of that is Cloud Giant Strength is going to set this character's strength up to 27. So that +8 gets doubled with this weapon, right? So if you want to use this weapon, you have to swap on over to, not have to swap, you just have to use that elixir. Because this doesn't say from your whatever modifier, it says specifically strength. So even if we bind it onto our Pact blade, it won't matter. It's still going to try to pull from strength. But the good thing is, when we do that, it will get a bonus to its damage from our charisma. So we're getting a little bit of a double dippy do here. Not a sentence. Another great weapon, though, is just simply the Sword of Chaos. Why I like it is it just gives us free hit points. It's a really good weapon profile, does some free necrotic damage. I just absolutely love this weapon. And you get it in Act 3 as well. So that's our split for weapons. Let's go into some gear now. Now for gear, early off in the game, you can get the Helmet of Smiting. When you apply a condition with one of your smite spells, you gain 10 hit points equal to your charisma modifier. I think you'll swap off of this very quickly, but it's a really good early Paladin helmet to get. And then in Act 2, you get the Flawed Helldusk helmet, which I really, really like. It fits the cool theme of the character. Wielder has a +2 bonus to saving throws against spells, and you get a Constitution saving throw +1 for anything you're concentrating on. It's really nice. If you go with Gith, though, you can use stuff like this, the Circlet of Psionic Revenge. When you succeed a saving throw, the foe that caused the throw takes 1 to 4 psychic, but you get a +1 to Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma saving throws. There's a lot of really cool Gith items in this game. But probably one of the best ones here in this list is Saravok's Horned Helmet. The number you need to roll a crit hit while attacking is reduced by 1. You can't be frightened and cannot be afflicted with other emotion-altering conditions. And for some reason, it's not on my character. Well, we also have the Helm of Baldur on. The helmet heals you 2 hit points at the beginning of every turn. You have +1 bonus to armor class and saving throws. You can't be stunned, and you can't land crits on you. What I'll say is, you just got to choose. Are you going to go with more of a defensive character or more of an offensive character? And really too, since we're talking about honor mode a lot in this video, Helm of Baldur more often than not means you have to go fight Answer, which is a really scary fight if you're doing honor mode and you don't really have a super min-max build. Saravok is a much easier fight in my opinion. So you could probably get this helm easier than this helm. I've heard you can actually skip fighting Answer and just kind of do some trickery to get this, but keep that in mind when it comes to getting this weapon or this helmet. It is trickier than most. Same thing here with the Baldur and Giant Slayer, because you do definitely have to fight Answer for this. For armor, I'm just wearing Chainmail +2 because it looks really cool for this video. But as far as the actual armors go, the Dwarven Splintmail is armor you can get very early into the game. You're going to get this right here at the end of Act 1, beginning of Act 2. I can't remember who drops it specifically, but you can also just simply get the Adamantine Splintmail from the Grimforge. It's a really great piece of heavy armor, and it's going to last you for a good amount of time until you get the Reaper's Embrace, which might be one of my favorite armors for this build. All incoming damage reduced by 2. Reaper's Rigidity. When activated, you can't be moved against your will by any spell or action, but have disadvantage on dex saving throws, which does suck. But you get this cool Howl of the Dead that numbs all nearby creatures, and that numb, movement speed halved. Spellcaster has advantage on attack rolls against the affected entity. So it's another free form of advantage on attack rolls for you. I just really like it for this build. If you're wondering too what this die I've been going with, man, Bloody Plum, it's like the way to go with like everything, I swear. Well, look at that. Regal, beautiful, awesome. Now, the other really good one here is Helldusk armor. That's probably the one you'd want to get if you went with the House of Hope. Remember, this is honor mode. Maybe you're not trying to make that kind of risky move, but it's got the highest armor class of 21. When you succeed a saving throw, the caster receives burning for 3 turns. You have resistance to fire damage, and you cannot be burned. You take 3 less damage from all sources, and you get fly. That's the coolest part of this, right? And when you're fighting the final fight in the game, having fly is going to be huge if you do not take all those illithid powers. Another cool one, though, is simply the Blackguard's Plate. All incoming damage reduced by 1. Advantage on wisdom saving throws. Disadvantage on stealth checks. Just another one that's in there. For our armor, or for our gloves, early gloves, Gloves of Heroism are great. When you use your Channel Oath spells, you gain heroism. So just a free form of heroism here. You get it in the Underdark very early. Same place you get the Helmet of Smiting. Then you have the Luminous Gloves, also very early into Act 1. When the wearer deals radiant damage, the target receives 2 turns of Radiating Orb. So you take the Luminous Gloves, you add the Holy Lance Helm, and you add the Luminous Armor, and you are just a radiant damage powerhouse. It doesn't really fit the persona of Dark Knight, but it's fucking cool because you do a ton of damage. And Radiating Orbs, like I said earlier, -1 to attack rolls for each turn remaining, and you have so many ways to apply these. So you'll just have things will have a harder time hitting you in melee, which is crucial. The Blackguard's Gauntlets too. This has a free cast of Inflict Wounds and a +1 to your attack rolls, which is cool, and strength saving throws. The Gauntlets of Hill Giant Strength are one you can go with. I don't know if I'd really recommend it 100%, but it's just a free way to get your strength up to 23 if you're going with the Baldur and Giant Slayer. And that allows you to jump into a different elixir if you want. You can use the elixir of Bloodlust to get even more actions out of the character. So keep that in mind. You don't have to lock yourself into the Legacy of the Masters, which I recommend is the best. Gain a +2 bonus to attack and damage rolls with weapons. So now it's just way easier for you to hit, and when you do hit, you do more damage. Now for our boots, we have got the Boots of Striding, which you'll get from Minthara, unless you kill her by smacking the bridge like I did, and you don't get to loot her or get her in your party because I'm an idiot. But the Boots of Striding here, when you cast a spell that requires concentration, we've talked about how much of this stuff requires concentration, right? You gain momentum for 1 turn, which is great, but you can't be knocked prone or be moved against your will. That's the best part about it, which I really like. Boots of Psionic Movement here are cool if you go with the Gith. The Blackguard's Greaves are great because it's a free, they just put Long Shredder on you. The best boots, which are still pretty pricey, and unfortunately if you do side against the Emerald Grove and kill Daemon, you can't get these, but the Boots of Persistence, which match the armor, you gain freedom of movement and Long Shredder. They're just on you. They're really, really awesome boots. They really, really fit this character overall. As far as our cloak goes, this is going to depend upon, do you want to do damage or do you want to be defensive? The Mantle of the Holy Warrior is probably your better bet. Act 3 as well here. Gosh, Crusader's Mantle, their weapon attacks deal an additional 1 to 4 radiant damage per for 10 turns. It is a concentration ability though, of course, so just keep that in mind. So it's free radiant damage source. Again, you can couple those all other radiant damage we've got on the build. But some early stuff you can get. Act 1 is Flesh Melter Cloak. Something hits you, you deal 1 to 4 acid. After that, Cloak of Elemental Absorption is a good defensive one. The best defensive one though is Cloak of Displacement. At the beginning of the wearer's turn, the turn activates, granting enemies disadvantage on attack rolls that target the wearer. I'd probably put this on a squishier character to be honest, but I wanted to give you a defensive option for the character if you wanted to kind of go with that rather than this offensive one. For our necklaces and jewelry, we have got the Amulet of the Harpers is a really good one. Actually, I was supposed to put this amulet on, sorry. I thought I did. This is probably the better amulet to be put in the slot. There we go. It's the Amulet of Greater Health. So this sets your Constitution to 23 and you have advantage on Constitution saving throws. What I will say about this amulet though is I'd prefer it on a Cleric, which it is in my build, in this playthrough. I have it on my light Cleric so that she can actually maintain concentration. But if you need a ton of health, this is how you do it, right? We have 106 right now. Now we have 142. So it's a really huge jump up in your health pool. I do really like the Amulet of Harpers though, because it's a free cast of shield. I love that quite a bit. Other ones though is Moondrop Pendant, just to give you the ability to move around below 50% health that don't provoke opportunity attacks. You are on honor mode, so trying to have some mobility when you are in a dire situation is really nice. And Amulet of Misty Step is cool here, just to give you another cast of Misty Step that is outside of your spell slots, which I do love. And lastly, for our rings, we have the Crusher's Ring to give you some movement speed. Right here in Act 1, you get it at the Goblin Camp. You talk to the merchant, you can buy it. Or no, you have to kill Crusher. It's specifically the character named Crusher. Not to be confused with the Doctor from Star Trek. Coruscation Ring, when the wearer deals damage while illuminated by a light source, they also inflict radiating orb upon the target for 2 turns. Goes along with the luminous gloves, the luminous armor, and the Holy Lance helmet, and even the Crusaders, or the Mantle of the Holy Warrior. Lastly, we have Ring of Free Action, and why I like this is that we don't have a source of this innately built into the class like a lot of, like, say, the monk does or the ranger does, for example, where they get to ignore difficult terrain. This gives us that ability, and you can't be paralyzed or restrained. I really like this on the character if you don't have another melee character that doesn't have this on them in your party. It's a really, really good one. But Killer's Sweetheart is so good for auto crit hits, and the Ring of Regeneration is really good for just some free heals at the end of the turn. What you should keep in mind though, the Ring of Regeneration does trigger things that say, when healed, do this. So that ring that gives you Bless, the Ring of Regeneration would trigger it. The gloves that give you Blade Ward, the Ring of Regeneration triggers it. Zevlor's gloves from the Emerald Grove, guess what? This triggers it. Any item that heals you will trigger those things that will give you an effect if healed. So keep those things in mind when you're thinking about your character as you level up. And lastly, we have the Dead Shot to give us a number you need to roll a crit hit while attacking is reduced by 1. So that, in conjunction with Sarevok's helmet here, gives us the ability to crit hit on, rather than a 20, now a 19, now an 18. So it's a really, really good set of situations. Let's now put this all together and show off some combat. Now, before starting any fights, just make sure you have any kind of buffs active either before you leave long rests or before you actually jump in. So an example here would be Magic Weapon. I'm going to turn this on right now, but this will last until a long rest, which is great. It's going to eat up one of my level 2 slots. That's okay. I meant to use one of my... Well, that's all right. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I should have clicked... You click this, and you can use specifically your Warlock spell slot, so it replenishes on a short rest, which I probably should have done in that instance. But just know that I'm now concentrating on this, so if I wanted to use Crusader's Mantle from the cape we talked about, it's going to shut off Magic Weapon or any of these other smites. So just know those things. Make sure you're prepped before you jump into a fight, because you are going to want to make sure that you have that economy up at all times. Okay, so jumping now into a full-fledged combat, let's have some fun here. I deliberately used Mirror Image just to have some fun, to show off some of the defensive capabilities here, because with Mirror Image active, we have 30 armor class. This makes this character, which is already a pretty good tanky one because we have heavy armor, even more tanky. Also keep in mind too, I have quaffed a potion of speed so I can use more actions in this instance to show off more things in the video. And lastly, while we are using Elixir of Cloud Giant Strength to show off what we can do with the Baldur and Greatsword, what I would say is majority of the time, I would probably use an Elixir of Bloodlust. So once per turn, when you kill a foe, you gain 5 temp hit points. That's neither here nor there, but you gain an additional action. And keep in mind, this action in honor mode is not like a full-fledged action in that I get a whole nother round of attack and extra attack. I would just simply get one more attack or spell or whatever it is. So more often than not, I'd probably have Elixir of Bloodlust up in the game. I just wanted to show you what we can do with this beefy sword. So let's come over here. Let's have some fun. I'm just so excited to blow something up with this character. I'm going to save in case we mess something up too. Oh, yeah. Speaking of like buffing ourselves, right? We got to use Vow of Enmity. Gain advantage on attack rolls against an enemy. We would use that right here to get advantage. So we would do this, which is of course now going to eat up our bonus action economy. We should have done that before we even started the fight, to be totally honest with you. But this gives me a chance to show off the defensive characteristics. So I'll do a swing here. And we've got Guided Strike that we can use. If this attack roll is not going to go through, they need an 18 to hit. They rolled a 17, so we're good. It's not good. I don't know why I said that. There we go. Now, let's just supercharge this with a Divine Smite 3. And let's show off that damage. So we did 34 damage, because why the fuck not? And then we did another 24 damage with our Divine Smite. We didn't even crit hit. So we can just keep doing this, though. Miss again. There we go. But at the same time, I could have done any other thing here, right? We could have Arms of Hadar, that entire little pocket of people, to really get a whole ton of damage off. We did kill something, so we have our bonus action here of our Great Weapon Master. We can do a lot of fun stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and end this turn. Actually, let me come back to this character, cancel, and put him right in the thick of things. I want him to kind of pull as much aggro as possible. Right there will do. And turn. And now everything's going to kind of take their turn. Maybe attack me, maybe not. There we go. See, mirror image. We lost one of our mirror images. We lost another mirror image. But we have tons of AC to kind of take those hits. And in an instance like honor mode, where we don't really want to get hit as much, it's nice to be able to mitigate that as much as we can with stuff like mirror image. Just keep in mind, like I've said before, that casted mirror image, think of it also as removing that spell slot from a smite, which you could easily replenish using stuff like Spell Crux amulets and all sorts of things that replenish those. The Pearlescent amulet, which will replenish up to level 3 spell slots. So just kind of keep those things in mind. You can mitigate some of that cost of those spells. Looks like not many people wanted to attack my big scary dude, and I don't blame them. But we get to come back and have some fun now. So let's do that. We can do this right here. Move over to this side of the character. Cast Arms of Hadar. And in this configuration, we would get 2, 4, because of our double primary action, and 5 attacks, because of the bonus action we get from here. So just kind of keep that in mind, too, that we have a lot of attacks and damage that we can do. Let's just do an Arms of Hadar to show this off, so we can do this damage right here. We can cast it with our short rest replenishable Warlock slot, rather than our actual Warlock slot here. We have a lot of different sources. We can hold person on something to try and really drive a big hit home. So a lot of really cool, fun stuff that we can do. Let's go ahead and actually, or we've also got inflict wounds. Try and do that. for Eldritch Blast. Keep in mind, as you can see right here, we're threatened, right? So we don't get the actual advantage. But Vow of Enmity does work on anything that's going to do an attack roll. Your Eldritch Blast will. So if you use Vow of Enmity and you're like, oh crap, I'm too far away from something to do damage, you can still get that advantage on your Eldritch Blast. And since we're charisma based, it's going to do a respectable amount of damage. 4 to 13, 3 times, right? And plus 3 force there from the, or 1d10 plus 3 because of the force of agonizing blast, and 3 times. It's still a great ability. Okay, cool. Yeah, I just accidentally did that, right? That's stupid of me. There we go. We'll use our level 2 replenishing slot. Do that. Just hits things. Just wanted to show off hitting stuff. We'll use all this weapon master. Oh, we crit hit. Oh yeah, baby. Level 3 divine. Oh, so we did 42 damage plus an additional 42 damage. So we were really slapping things around here, right? And we can go ahead and do another round of damage. Divine Smite it, sure. We got more damage, though. And you can see, because we did a primary action with this, a primary action attack, a follow-up extra attack, and it's still blinking, right? Because it's showing us, you hover over this at the bottom, bonus action, War Priest charge. Or use this. There's no benefit to using the War Priest charge over this. You'd want to use the one that doesn't cost you a currency, which is this one, right? So we use this, we killed something, and we crit hit, right? Sure. Guided strike, made it go through, boom, got the hit. So you can see that this build has so many fun tools, and it is different than my Death Knight build, which is a 7-5 Paladin Warlock, right? And that 5 Warlock Pact Blade extra attack was a real big flavor of the month. But I think that this adds a lot of really fun punching power in a lot of different directions. It's extremely viable in honor mode because it gives us a lot of answers to a lot of situations that we can get ourselves into, right? We've got a lot of mobility, we've got a lot of CC, we've got a lot of ways to do a lot of damage, and we're very tanky and durable the entirety of the playthrough. It doesn't just become tanky and durable at the end of the game. We have that durability throughout all of it. And the big challenge here was to try to make a build that was fun and crunchy and did a lot of really cool things, but it wasn't requiring level 10 to come online. Yeah, sure, our charisma scaling starts once we get that last level of Warlock, but you're doing big damage early in the game because you've got smites, because you've got the Everburn Blade, and because you can really tap into all the radiant damage you can do through the entire set of Luminous gear, especially when you're playing honor mode, when that is going to be absolutely crucial for you. So if you have any recommendations or ways you change this or alter maybe the leveling spread, whatever it is, let it be known in the comment section below. But guys, thank you so much for watching here today. If you have any suggestions for any builds you'd like to see, I'm thinking of like a really super tanky character that is like a light cleric. We're using spirit guardians, using all sorts of really fun reactive stuff off of healing, or another character that is like a samurai based, all sorts of stuff. Just go ahead and let me know in the comment section below if you'd like to see any other builds. But as always, have a good one and take care.